Bringing my Grand Seiko SBGP007 high-accuracy quartz watch to Japan seemed like the right thing to do. After all, this is a land where timekeeping was inspired by innovations from afar, and in turn Japanese innovations made them better with greater precision. Lots of Japanese people, to this day, still wear traditional watches. I can't show you that because photographing other people's watches would be rude, so just take my word for it. If you want to see watch wearing like the way it used to be, then Japan is a good place to visit. This clockwork mentality can easily be seen in the scheduling of trains. You can just take for granted that trains arrive and depart exactly when they mean to, and sometimes it's right to the second. This watch of mine represents all of that. It has the beauty of a well-crafted luxury watch, but inside it has one of the most accurate and useful watch movements. For this trip, I changed time zones, so I moved the hour hand of my watch, first going forward 13 hours, and then reverse that on the way back home. I could do this, moving forwards and backwards in time and date, without ever stopping my watch. It is like a traveler's GMT watch, but without the fourth hand. I have another video that demonstrates this operation. This is a function of the 9F85 movement from Grand Seiko. If you want to find watches that use this movement, then look for references starting with SBGP. If you want the GMT version of the movement, then that is 9F86, and its references start with SBGN. These are the current pinnacle of Grand Seiko's quartz watches, introduced around 2018. If you want to know how serious I am about this watch, then just ask yourself, who else would do something like this, using a plush doll as a watch stand? With all of that in mind, I visited some Grand Seiko boutiques, and I faced a couple of temptations. The first temptation was the recently released SBGX 355, the so-called quartz snowflake, which is a titanium-cased watch in 37mm with a white dial that looks like the original spring-dry SBGA 211 snowflake watch. It is a pretty watch, and it wears well on my big wrist. In Canada, this retails at $5,100, but in Japan it is 517,000 yen. As a foreigner, I could get this tax-free, so the real cost would be 470,000 yen, which roughly converts to around $4,200 in Canada. So already the conversion and the tax break saves me up to 20%, but I may be required to pay taxes and duty when importing it into Canada. If I was required to pay, then that would be up to $800. I would still be ahead, despite the fees. But there are a couple of problems. This watch is redundant next to my SBGP007. It is another pretty dial that would wear differently due to weight and size. But do those factors merit having another watch? Plus, its movement is an older generation 9F62 movement. It is a standard movement, having adjustable hands and quick set date. It won't handle time zones and seasonal adjustments as elegantly as my 9F85 movement. Time zones and seasonal adjustments would mean having to stop the watch. And then what's the advantage of having high accuracy when it's lost on the operation? This would be a step backward from what I've come to expect from a Grand Seiko quartz watch. You might also be thinking that a frivolous expense is also a problem, and I agree, but I think that such things can go without saying, for the same reason that I do not dare to tell other people what they can afford. The second temptation came from the Ginza flagship boutique, with the model SBGH 241, a Wako boutique exclusive. This watch is a recreation of the historic watches found on the second floor, so it makes sense that this would be a boutique exclusive. It's also a nice watch, and I could see myself taking this one home, except that it's a high beat movement. I'm just not as impressed by Grand Seiko mechanical movements, especially when I already have one of the best performing watches possible in my SBGP007. So that's my Grand Seiko themed journal entry about a recent trip to Japan. There were other experiences in Japan, but I'll have to leave those for separate videos.